Hi, this is Nathan. Welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Hello, Dylan Weaver here. We're just getting ready for a time of humor, analysis, and unpreparedness. Would you like to join us? Then get ready, because you'll never know what can happen when you listen to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. Yeah, that's the John Mulaney bit that didn't make it into his special.
Oh, I was just wondering that I mean, logically it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's from the Comeback Kid tour.
That you saw.
I did not see that one. I just heard someone talk about it on a podcast about it not making it into the special. And I was like, that's great. Now I've got John Mulaney. I don't know, more John Mulaney jokes banked.
So is this a cold open?
No, I don't know. Maybe this will be the unrelated teaser. Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod, Episode 1. I'm Dylan Weaver.
I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're here to talk about Adventures in Odyssey. Specifically, Episode 457, Opportunity Knocks. It is the first episode of the Novacom Saga, and it is, Episode 9 on the 35th album.
Yeah, just in case you're following along at home.
Right. So break out your cassette booklet. Flip to the back side of the fourth cassette, and there it is. Fifth. I'm getting ahead of myself. It doesn't matter. All right.
I'm just imagining, there's got to be people out there that have almost every album from the first 20 years of the show, just alphabetized, the way people keep Pokemon cards.
You can't alphabetize them. You got to put them in numerical order.
Well, yeah. Chronologically. Is what I meant.
Most of them are at the church library.
Yes,
that was my source for years. It's kind of crazy because, I was looking at this and I was like, when did this episode come out? Because my whole space of when stuff aired, it doesn't matter because I just got it from the church library. It came out in 2000, but the church had it on cassette.
Yeah.
So if it originally aired in 2000, probably didn't come out on cassette until 2001. Why was it not on CD? It was 2001. That's borderline. But the kicker is they had album 45 on cassette as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but
well, my guess is that they've got enough of a market selling just to people that will only buy cassettes, because you gotta think about who's buying it, right?
Yeah.
And the church was like, well, this is cheaper, so cool.
Right. Yeah. So the way this works is we're just gonna kind of go through the episode, and talk about it, riff on it, get off on ridiculous tangents.
Yes, sir.
And
that's what
I don't know. That's that.
Yeah. Before we get started, I'd like to say, so this is episode 1 of the Novacom Saga, and that's what we're going through. Yep. So, this isn't the first episode of Adventures in Odyssey, for those that are not aware. Shamefully is the word I'm looking for. Far into it, but so that's what we're going through. That's the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Yep.
Going through it.
Yeah. The listing of the Novacom Saga that we're going off of is Focus on the Family released a box set of just the Novacom Saga, which was a big part of my love for Adventures in Odyssey. And so that's both the order and the episodes we're choosing. So all of these episodes will line up chronologically, but we'll skip episodes in between. Our next one is not 458 because 458 is not part of the Novacom Saga as defined by Focus on the Family. So we're just sticking to those, and we're just handling the Novacom Saga for now. If this podcast makes it that far, we're just covering this.
Wait, how many total episodes are there?
There's somewhere in the 30 to 40 range.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So there's enough. We've got our work cut out for us as is. So I'm not
making conservative Christians and blindly following Focus on the Family wherever it leads us.
All right. On that note,
let's get started.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk. Gonna read off the official synopsis of the episode. With the Timothy Center in a financial crisis, it seems like an answered prayer when a company called Novacom offers Tom Riley a lot of money to build a tower on his property.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a pretty spot on synopsis. We'll get into some of the details. I don't know how much of the actual voice cast I want to bring up. We'll maybe just hit it as we go and just be like, this is
a point of interest. I mean, this is Tom Riley's 100th episode.
It is Tom
and
Riley's
he's a
100th
key
episode.
character in it.
Yeah. So that's fun.
And you just want to just jump right in with the intro, which
Andrew,
why
don't you take it away with how this episode opens?
Well, so Adventures in Odyssey does this thing where they have like the theme music, and it has its normal intro, not unlike a certain podcast you may have listened to, and it goes through it, but then it has, I would say, quirky outtakes from the episode stitched together. And this one is just real weird because it just uses the same audio sample of Tom Riley saying "no" over and over and over again in response to other things, and it has nothing to do with the episode.
It really doesn't. They pulled random clips from the show, and then we're like, it would also be funny if there's just Tom saying no after it every time.
Yeah.
And he does say, like, all of it is audio from the episode.
Yeah.
But it is not audio that relates to the episode.
Yeah.
When I think back to Adventures in Odyssey, I do, like, have memories of those intros, but I didn't think, like, oh, that was, like, weird and tangential.
No sense.
And it might just be this one. Like, we'll see what happens as we go on. Oh, maybe this one was just weird. But
the thing that I remember is, like, typically they kind of match the tone of the episode. Like, this wasn't a comedic episode at all. And it has this really like weird jokey intro. Like, they're trying to like soften us up before the blow. Like, what's going on here? But
after the teaser's done, the episode itself opens.
Teaser air quotes.
Teaser. I'm gonna call it the teaser. We'll land on that. It's teasing.
Wait,
something.
I mean, this is episode 1. We need to establish our official vocabulary. Teaser is referring to the intro.
Yep. Teaser is. No, the intro
is the intro.
The intro is where Chris comes on, and then in this episode, it's Tom who does his little thing that changes episode to episode, at least in this era of the show. And then the intro music's still playing, and there's a weird teaser where it's just like clip show. But like in no logical manner in this episode. So
completely haphazardly.
That ends, and we land on Candid Conversations with Connie, and she is interviewing Tom Riley. This is Connie's interview show that she does on show. KYDS, Kids Radio.
Oh no.
And spoiler alert, Connie, not a good interviewer.
No, not at all.
Once again, can only speak to this episode because it's all I'm re-listening to. But, wow.
Well, okay. Yeah.
So, it starts out great. She works for Tom at the Timothy Center, which is a retreat center that he runs that's named after his son. She works there in addition to Wits End and is just talking to him. He comes on the show to talk about it, and she's just kind of talking through stuff with him.
Yeah.
And like, it starts out pretty normally, and then all of a sudden
things get much worse.
Yeah. She asks him about
Timothy
what does she
Center?
ask him about? No, but specifically, it's the auditorium.
Yeah, the new auditorium.
She asks him about the I heard you guys are like have plans to put in a new auditorium. He's like, no, we shelved that.
And then she's like, why? And then like, classic interviewer fashion. And okay, I'll give her some credit, right? Connie Kendall is perpetually a teenage girl for like 18 years.
Yeah, this show, so background, this show has been running since the 80s. This episode is in the 2000s. Connie was introduced in like episode 4. She started out as a high schooler. I think at this point she is 20s. Like, she is definitely graduated by this point.
But I don't think she's gone to school.
No, she did not go to college.
No.
That I have any recollection of.
Well, she does eventually. Again, it's been a long time.
Yeah,
I'm speaking with too much authority.
After it, yeah.
But
this is the problem with jumping into the show 500 episodes in.
Yeah.
We were not and will not do the show from the beginning. That would be a mess.
Because there's just... Yeah, nope.
We needed to pick a segment, but it means that for those of you who haven't already listened to Adventures in Odyssey, which why are you listening to this?
Hi, Mom. Well, no, she's already listened to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Yeah. I think
so.
That
yeah, we're gonna try to give some background. It's not gonna be accurate. Send your angry emails to us.
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
Add them on Twitter. That's really important.
Yeah, at me on Twitter.
At WadFam Chalkpod. Just to clarify.
Everywhere. The handle wasn't taken.
Surprisingly.
But yeah, no, Connie's interview just goes
Real
way
bad.
off the rails.
Yeah.
And because it's not only that she, like, starts focusing in on this, the Timothy Center's having money issues, but then once
he gets uncomfortable,
he's super uncomfortable to begin with. She cannot read it and keeps pressing him till he basically is like, look, we're broke. And then she's like, oh, well, I guess I have nothing else to talk about. Yeah. Let's end the show. And I'm just like, what is this?
What is your... Yeah?
Okay.
No?
Your whole plan was, I guess let's talk about what's up and coming with the Timothy Center is a good talking point, but, like, you should have had more prepared than just, what's happening with the Timothy? Oh, nothing's happened? Oh, well then, we're going to cut ourselves off right here.
It's like, hear from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Well, and, like, okay. My critique, like, probably my biggest critique to the production of the show was, like, I felt like the dialogue was kind of really forced and choppy, and I don't, like, completely remember the rest of the series being like this.
Yeah, I don't either. There was
and so I don't know if it's her being a bad interview because of that.
Right.
Or if it's, like, it's in her character that she's just, like, drilling him with questions. He says a one-word response, and then she doesn't wait for him to expound. She just keeps going.
Yeah, I think that is supposed to be kind of her thing, is that she's, like, talking over the interviewer, but it's not great.
Which, it's also thought that I had, just real quick, she introduces Tom Riley as former mayor.
Right.
He used to be mayor.
He did used to be mayor. That is,
and like that was a
true.
very dramatic point in the series to my recollection.
Yep.
Was when he became mayor, and I'm like, what does it even mean to be mayor of a small town? Like maybe Baltimore, where things are a little bit more intense.
Yeah, I honestly, despite having listened to every episode up until, like, I don't know, we'll go 2010 casually because
that sounds about right.
We'll say that's the ballpark of when I stopped listening to. I think Green Rain Conspiracy was the last, like, album I listened to.
I remember that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I don't remember why he was mayor or what that was, and I'm with you. Mayor of a small town.
Yeah, well, and, like, the fact that it was a very big deal. Like what did he do? Like, what, as a mayor, what is your legal rules? Like, because it's all pretty much delegated to different government departments, so I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's very inconsequential
doesn't even
what we're talking about.
Yeah, my note is, dear God, she is bad at interviewing.
Yeah, no kidding. So we cut from the interview actually happening to the Wit and some of the kids listening to the broadcast from outside the studio, which is, once again, where the production of this show really shines through. Like, you could instantly tell we're not in the studio. This is playing on a radio in the background of another conversation. Yeah. Which was just, like,
insane.
It's so well done.
Well, and like even switching from the intro to the radio conversation, like it sounded like what normal radio would sound like. You turn on, like,
tuning
NPR
in
or something.
Yep.
Yeah, like,
so they're out at the soda fountain talking. Yeah. And another production thing is we then hear Tom and Connie, like, walking up to the conversation. Yeah. And it's just like they're talking about other things and their voices slowly come into. So they have to do this thing because of it being an audio show where they do not allow overlapping dialogue much at all on it. We hear Tom and Connie getting closer talking, but it's not like their voices are underneath Wit and the other kids. Like, Wit and the other kids stop talking so that we can hear the others walking in. Yeah. Which is, kind of just how you gotta...
it's really cool, though.
It's how you gotta do that sort of thing. The big thing before they walk in is that
Novacom transmissions cuts in.
So,
which is our first real introduction to Novacom as an idea, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no Novacom prior to this. We just slowly hear Novacom testing, and then it cuts.
And then Whit's like, that's illegal.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
I mean, it's illegal to cut into radio, people. Don't do it. If you cut into this podcast, we'll come after you with all of our expensive lawyers.
Yes, sir. I know a guy. I was going to say, talking about not overlapping dialogue, and that's like most of what this show is.
It's going to be a lot of overlapping dialogue.
I'm okay with it.
Sorry.
I'm very okay
we're,
with it.
We're recording all on mic, so there's not going to be 2 streams to edit.
Yeah, so then we have Tom and Connie join Whit as Connie suggests that people could donate to the Timothy Center. So like they're still talking about this whole they don't have money situation. And this was annoying to me because Tom was just like, no, I don't want their money. Like, this isn't a charity. Like, what point? Like,
I mean, yeah. It's like on one hand, sure, be independent. On the other hand, like, you're running a retreat center. It's like, it's not that crazy to be like, and we're going to do some fundraising.
Yeah.
Like, fundraising is a
totally
pretty normal thing.
For any project.
Churches run purely off contributions. I think you can ask for money.
Well, and considering it is pretty much a strictly Christian thing, like, I don't think it is far from the realm of possibility for them to be like, hey, a gala, you can give us money, thanks.
Yeah. Which is basically where they land on later. But even when they land on it later, like, it's painted in such a bad light that I don't understand.
It is so frustrating.
Yeah, like, getting ahead a little bit, Tom and Ben are just like, we gotta pray, and Connie and Audrey are like, let's take action. So they end up organizing this fundraiser, and it's like gonna be great, but everyone keeps being like, well, what we really need to do is pray, and like that's kind of supposed to be the moral, but it's like the fundraiser is not a bad idea.
Or ungodly in any way.
Right. Like, why is everyone constantly shooting? Like, come on, Connie, that's such a dumb idea. It's like, no, it's perfectly reasonable. She's making a good call. Like, why is everyone down? Like,
and painting it in like such a bad light to accept financial help.
Yeah, there's a lot of this episode where I was like, I disagree with the light the show is portraying these things in.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot of what my notes are. Just being like, why?
Yeah.
Why? You get the whole bit where he's working on his car. He's working on his car because he can't afford a mechanic, which just reinforces the need that, like...
God, he's such a jerk about it again. She's just like...
Why? Because you can't afford a mechanic.
Yeah, she's just like, you hate working on cars. And you, like, take a hint. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
You, like, literally the last scene we saw with you was you having financial issues. And maybe days have passed. Who knows? It really doesn't seem like it because... of the next thing, which is Ben walks up and asks him about the financial issues. So the Shepherds, Ben and Ellen are the parents?
Yeah, Ellen. Okay. Ellen's at her Bible study. I remember that.
And then she does not make an appearance in this episode, though she is mentioned. And then Audrey and Bethany are the kids. They were introduced not that far prior to this episode. I think earlier in maybe the last album.
Yeah.
So Adventures in Odyssey likes to kind of cycle through, bring new characters in, transition old ones out, that sort of thing quite a bit. And so they were brought in like, hey, the Timothy Center's opening. These people are going on the retreat. And then they feel called to stay and work at the Timothy Center.
Yeah.
And Bethany and Audrey have to get used to being in a sleepy small town. And
so we're a whole big deal.
We're further along in their story at this part, but it's still dealing with the parents being pretty new Christians and Audrey especially not always being on board with that.
Yeah.
So Ben walks up to Tom and is asking him about these financial issues because Bethany was at the counter back in the previous scene and overheard the radio.
Yeah, well, and then Aubrey comes in with the news and, like, just to make matters work, like, insult to injury, like, another booking is canceled and it was supposed to be a big one and they had already had a bunch of canceling as was revealed earlier, and it's just bad news bears, I suppose. I haven't used that phrase in a very long time, but
own it, man.
It's not great.
Own it.
And then you cut back to the whole Whit talking about Novacom, and This was my...
So Wit is now at the town hall. He says he's going to go down there and kind of investigate as to who Novacom is and why they're cutting into his broadcast and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And this is where things start to get interesting, I guess.
It was a very frustrating episode for somebody who loves Mr. Whitaker.
You can tell, knowing where the story goes here, why they're painting everything the way they are, but trying to imagine it outside of that context, you're just like, what in the world? He is immediately so antagonistic to this company.
Well, and it doesn't even seem like it's a spiritual awakening or something like that. Like, I sense something evil.
No,
like,
he's just like weirdly skeptical, and like I feel like,
and like needlessly so. Like, and that's I don't think that's Mr. Whitaker's character, really.
Yeah, because they're constantly like adding a lot of like him going
and
and there are like musical cues and like not quite a dun dun dun, but like stuff along those lines where it's just
they
like...
lay it on so thick.
Where it's just like, we're really telegraphing that this is a bad company situation. And Wit knows it right away and he's the only one who picks up on it.
Yeah.
There's some stuff where I'm like, all right, like maybe you do raise an eye to that a little bit. At the town hall, he's asking the clerk about it. The clerk, by the way, is voiced by John Fornoff, who has written and directed a lot of the episodes of the show. This is kind of a common trend throughout the series. They pull in people who work behind the scenes on the show to do voices because it is just a radio show, and sometimes you need someone to fill in.
For like filler characters.
Or they'll have one of the main characters just doing a different voice or something in the episode and that sort of thing. So like the person who cuts into the Novacom podcast is Bob Luttrell.
Yeah.
who's like longtime like sound engineer for the show. And so it's my fun tidbit about there. But yeah, Wit's just like, I don't know.
Really?
Like, oh, what's this Novacom thing you're talking about?
Like paranoid to a...
How haven't I heard about this? And the clerk's like, well, the Odyssey Times had Dale Jacob kill the article.
Yeah.
And Dale Jacobs being one of the reporters from the town, who we know from other stuff.
Previous narrative.
Yeah.
Which, there's so many, like now I'm like going back to it, listening, like there are so many storylines like of these.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they constantly reference other characters, and like it does a lot of times feel like kind of living, breathing town, because it's like they're constantly referencing other stuff.
Yeah.
Candid Conversations with Connie starts off with like, sorry about last week when Harlow Doyle was on here, which is like, oh yeah, haha, Harlow, I like that. But also, if you didn't know who that was, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know who Dale Jacobs is, you can probably just be like, oh, named reporter.
Yeah.
But if you do know, you're like, oh,
yeah, like, you know his daughter and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like really, really cool. Well, I think it's just a credit. Like, I don't always agree with what they say, but Adventures in Odyssey does what it does perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, they have made so much content and somehow managed to make it so interesting.
Yeah, it accomplishes what it sets out to do.
Yeah,
perfectly.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not always completely on board with what it's setting out to do, but you can't argue with that part of it.
No, you really can't. And like between production value and everything like that, like it is really clean as far as shows are concerned. Like,
yeah, and they're like actual voice actors and stuff.
Yeah.
They did voices and other things.
Yep.
And yeah, it's cool.
It is really cool. And like that's something obviously I didn't appreciate as a kid because I didn't really care about it or know about it.
The other thing is the scene kind of goes out with the clerk telling Wit that he thinks Novacom is more than just a radio station, which is a great line. Like, it's just a line, but they underscore it with like it's such a sinister underscoring, like, oh no, it's more than a radio station. It's like,
what?
Yeah.
What do you even do?
Like, more than a radio station. It's like, it's more okay.
The cut, like the transition music, is so good and like so much nostalgia in each one of the transitions. Like
that transition music is
real
fantastic.
Good. It's so very good.
The next scene is probably my least favorite of the episode. We're at the shepherd's house.
Yeah.
It's Aubrey and her... Is it Aubrey or Audrey? Now, I don't know.
Aubrey, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, we're gonna go with Aubrey. Call us out on the socials.
Yeah.
But But she's just complaining with Ben, her dad. Oh no, if they don't have money, are we gonna lose our job? Because they're currently working at the Timothy Center, and he's like, no, like I think we're pretty safe in our job. And then she's like, well, are you gonna get a raise?
Yeah.
It's like, no, also not that. And she's like, well, I need new clothes. And I'm just like, all right, telegraph the teenage girl so much harder. Like, yeah.
Boy, is that a stereotype that you are just pushing down my throat.
I gotta get more clothes. Her quote is like, all the clothes in my wardrobe are currently unwearable. And I'm just like, all right, Aubrey. Just like...
Well, and like, I understand, like, there are feelings about stuff like that, but if you're looking for realistic dialogue, that's not the way to go. I have said to my mom on numerous occasions, hey, lots of my clothes have bleach stains on them. Is there any way we could go out and maybe buy a couple t-shirts?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
That's a reasonable way of approaching it, not being like, in the middle of a financial crisis, be like, well,
just
can you get a raise? Because I need clothes.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's like,
so bad.
This is another one where it's like, they are constantly pausing the dialogue so it doesn't overlap. You have Aubrey talking with her dad about all of this, like, are we gonna lose the job? Like, what's all this stuff? Well, her younger sister, Bethany, who, I think the idea is that Aubrey's in high school.
Yeah.
Because there's an episode where she drives a car, so she's like 14 or 15.
Yeah,
so
my guess is like
I'm thinking
somewhere between 8th and 10th grade is my guess.
Yeah,
maybe
I'd
even
say,
9th or 10th.
I'd say she's like 15's probably a good ballpark for her. And then Bethany is, I don't know, she seems like she's like 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's like definitely.
Is there a 10-year difference between these kids? Because I don't think there is. But like, wow, her whole
they're
thing
really
is
giving
like,
the young naive pitch.
Yeah, she's just like rattling off all these things they can do to save money.
Which
she's
are
like,
really cute and really funny, and like I really enjoyed it, but like, oh boy.
We can eat once a day, and only shower when necessary, and sell our blood. And I'm just like, alright.
Yeah, that was a very frustrating scene. And then they move on to the whole Whit meeting Arthur Dent at Novacom, Arthur Dent being one of the head guys at Novacom. And they have this like kind of frustrating dialogue where Whit just comes across like a real jerk, in my opinion. He's like super like inquisitive and antagonistic.
He's immediately on edge.
Yeah.
Because I guess because he went in knowing that, yeah, but that's exactly it. This is supposed to be the lovable guy who just is accepting of people and is just going to like judge you by what you do, not what he hears about you, and like all this stuff, or not even judge you. Like he's like an embodiment of goodness, and here he's just like no.
Yeah, like
no.
Well, you guys are clearly from Satan.
You guys are in the same. We're in the same business. No, we're not.
Yeah,
we're all about teaching the Bible, not child entertainment. And it's like,
well, and
all right,
the thing is, he didn't even say teaching the Bible. He was like teaching. I'm like, I mean, cool, yeah. But like also the love of Christ, where is it? I can't find it. I thought it was there, but no longer.
Also, there's so many things in life where, because Adventures in Odyssey is like one of my first cultural touchstones, there's so much stuff later where I'm like, oh, it was riffing off that or whatever. So like the weird thing here is later in like high school when I picked up Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, main character Arthur Dent, which is just the name they use here, I guess, in reference to that. But it's like, I was like,
huh, this sounds very familiar.
I was like reading Hitchhiker and I was like, the Adventures in Odyssey
character? Yeah.
Like what?
And it's word like it's.
Oh yeah, no, they didn't change it up at all. And it's fine. Dent's just talking about like, oh, we're Novacom, we do everything. Film, radio, TV, the internet, and I'm just like, oh yeah. What did the internet? What did you think the internet was in 2000 again?
Dial up, definitely dial up.
Like what entertainment are you distributing
Especially
on the
entertaining on the internet in a small town,
right?
Like we're talking like maybe an e-blast.
let me just...
A group chat to talk about their radio programs.
One of the constant things that's just like, obviously, you want to keep your show interesting and do interesting stuff, and it's set in Odyssey, but how does the world revolve around Odyssey?
Yeah.
Like, it's Illinois, right? Because it's by Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah. So the whole thing is like, oh yeah, we're using, like, Novacom is using Odyssey as a test market. And it's like, why?
Well, and like, I get that Mr. Whitaker is like an international figure, like, through the technology and stuff he's made, but like...
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing, and...
But on one hand, he seems like he should be a big figure for the technology. On the other hand, a lot of the technology is just kind of like hand-waved, and I don't feel like he is like super recognized. Mr. Whitaker was an archaeologist for a while, like an Indiana Jones style archaeologist.
Yeah. He has an encyclopedia company.
He has an encyclopedia.
He used to be a teacher, right? Isn't that
He used to be a teacher. Is it just his son who worked for the NSA, or did he as well?
I don't think he did.
Okay, it is just his son. So but it's like, how, like, what is this guy, and like,
how?
And like, what
happens when you have one character driven across like every single plot line imaginable ever.
Yeah. And like
Spies, Mr. Whitaker.
Yeah.
History, Mr. Whitaker.
Going on 1,000 episodes. Like
Yep. And 3 Mr. Whitakers.
And yeah.
3 different voice actors.
Yep. Well, more than that technically, but yes.
Yeah.
Because there are but yeah, this is the second Mr. Whitaker.
Yes. Yeah.
This is
which, and arguably, I think my favorite.
Yeah. This is the one where that I listen to the most.
Yeah. Then obviously Arthur Dent asks him about like where he can put up a tower. And he brings up the land, and it just so happens that that's the land that Tom Riley owns.
Or does it just so happen?
Yeah.
Because the big twist is that, like every villain, I guess Dent's a villain here, he misspeaks and is like, so do you know who owns this land? And was like, oh yeah, it's a friend of mine. He's like, oh, well, why don't you talk to Tom Riley?
Yeah.
And it's like, I never told you his name.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, man.
Trope.
Yeah, thanks for telegraphing that this guy's a bad guy. The problem is, the show needs Wit to be this infallible good.
Yeah.
And so he has to be omniscient and see everything coming. And at least be, like, skeptical of Novacom. But, like, it would be so much more interesting.
But to a point where it's, like, it's discrediting to him as a character, I feel like.
Well, I think it would be more interesting if, like, he hadn't immediately written Novacom off. And he had been like, yeah, let's try something out. Like, let's work together. You guys seem like you're doing... Like, if he had been more on board, then... what's coming down the road would maybe be more interesting, but because he's just immediately like, no, something's amiss here, even though literally, like,
he's
grasping at straws.
Yeah,
it's
and like, I don't know, like, if okay, I understand, like, you see bad things, like, they're gonna make content that you don't approve of, but like, I don't think that the answer is then just walling them off and being mean to them, right? Like. It isn't the Christian way to try and, like, build some sort of relationship there.
Right, but also, like, get off your high horse, Wit. Not all entertainment has to be Christian and what you want. Like, I don't know. Is this focusing on the family speaking through, or it's just like, we want everything to be our way?
Well, that's like, I feel like this series is catnip for conservative parents who strictly censor media for their kids.
Yeah.
Like, see?
Yeah.
See, if you watch network television, you're going to hell. Like, what?
Yeah, there's just... I guess
you're gonna literally get brainwashed.
Yeah, I guess if it doesn't enrich, it takes away.
Yeah.
But really, like, is that? I don't know.
And like,
just be less closed-minded, Wit. Maybe. Yeah. Just maybe here.
Well, and it's obviously, so he represents the infallible good that Focus on the Family believes.
Yeah. Right, and yeah, but it's like there'd be something to it if he was caught off guard by this too, and it had,
and it's just like,
and we'll discuss more about it as we go through episodes and talk about how things kind of evolve over time. But just off the bat, I'm like, you're so guarded. why are you so
anti
guarded?
this?
Like, this is ridiculous.
Well, not even like defensive would imply that like something's
that's
happening.
true.
Like, he's like aggressive.
Yeah, he is that's
He's
true.
like,
He's
I don't
not
like
just
you,
guarded.
and you're gonna know it. Like, I will be mean. I am right, and you are wrong. Please leave. And by please leave, I mean get out of my town. Yeah, it was very, very frustrating for me to go back and re-listen to that and like feel like this good that I thought like I completely forgot about. You know, Whit being kind of crazy and a jerk.
Yeah, he's just a little unhinged. So then we go to Whit telling Tom and Connie about the offer, and Tom and Connie are immediately just like, oh, this is the best thing ever. This is an answered prayer. Like, this is exactly what
Which it totally could be.
Totally is, but
it's not painted that way at all.
Right. This is exactly what we need, and then Whit's like, but is it? Tom's like, isn't this how God works? And Whit's like, well, I don't pretend to know how God works. And it's
like, but you do. You literally were just, summoning some supernatural discernment and immediately decided that they were terrible based on no evidence.
Yeah, it's
something is afoot.
Something's afoot. Oh,
I sense conspiracy.
But yeah, and then,
fancy names for companies and
then
community college.
Connie once again just being like, I don't know what her character is, but
it's
like,
frustrating. That's for sure.
Where she's just like, I'm gonna go plant flowers where they're gonna put this tower and mow, and it's like you're gonna, it is a radio tower. Why are you planting? Like,
Yep, just a lot of just frustration.
Her whole character is just like super enthusiastic and a little clueless.
Yeah.
And that seemed endearing, but is now just a little frustrating. Listening to it now.
Yeah. And so they build a tower, and then there's the whole bit with the fence where everybody freaked out. Like he's like, why is there a fence around it? And they're like, I'm pretty sure it's just for defense. And Whit's like,
was it in the contract?
Exactly.
He's like, well, no. And it's like, oh, red flag. They put up a fence and it wasn't in the contract. It's like, oh my God.
Like, because they don't want you getting to their stuff? Yeah. Heaven forbid? Not like you don't want them getting to your stuff? Like, what?
I don't know. Fences are unchristian.
Yeah.
I think is the moral of this episode.
Clearly. And it wasn't like it was like a razor wire fence or something like that, like electric or something. Like, it could be literally anything.
Oh, so this whole time Connie has been planning this fundraiser, and it's going really well. She makes a comment of like, this fundraiser might bring in more money than the fence, which is like pretty cool and just super glossed over because we're all supposed to be, the tower, not the fence. Like, we're also supposed to be super skeptical about this tower, so like we can't notice like,
Connie doing a genuinely good thing.
Right. It's like Connie's one like good thing she does this episode is just completely glossed over.
Yeah, they don't even care.
It's
it's depressing.
It's rough.
It's really depressing. It was actually like, and like the way it worked out, and like, just like my frustrations is like how they think that God can and can't work, like, and Whit being like, like not responding with love to people that don't believe the same thing. Like, no, focus, please stop, please. Yeah. And like accepting, financial aid is somehow a sign that you're failing and is not at all like God driven. Like,
there's a lot.
There's some agenda, and that's probably going to be a common theme.
Yeah,
I mean, it most definitely will be a common theme.
But and Tom's like, Whit, you don't seem that excited about this. Oh, also. Okay, so not only has Whit been super skeptical about this, but he never once went to Tom and explained why he was skeptical. None of the things were super big red flags, but there are some things he could have brought up to Tom. He's just like, I get bad vibes from Den, and Tom's like, well, I don't. You're right, Tom, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, he was perfectly normal with you, and Whit's just like reading into this, but like,
Tom
also
totally respects Whit. Like, if Whit had said something, he would have listened.
Right, and maybe it's Whit just being like, I don't want to wield my power here.
But clearly you want to.
Right. That's exactly it. But you're like, oh, I'm not actually gonna tell you what to do, but yeah, I wouldn't have done that. Just like constantly mumbling off under your breath or making cryptic comments instead of coming to your friend and being like, look, these are the things that I experienced. I want you to make an informed decision on whether or not you want to go into business with them with this stuff in mind.
Yeah.
And not just be like, I don't think it's a good idea, but you do you, Tom.
Yeah.
And then Tom being like,
okay.
Okay, you're not telling me why this is a bad idea, just that it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end Tom's just like, so like you still seem like not super on board with this idea. And Whit's like, well, I hope it wasn't a mistake. All right, Whit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, and that legitimately frustrated me. But I really did like the wrap up of the episode, like, because I feel like she kind of emphasized, like, listen to God, like, stuff happens, just listen to God, like, sit and wait patiently, like, listen to God. Whereas this whole episode is them just being like, they're doing something, whether they're doing supposedly nothing or they're like doing something physically.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing just like it gives me issues with just like the general like thrown around like God's will thing where it's just like how helpful of a question is this to constantly be like, am I doing exactly what I need to be doing right now?
Well, yeah, and it's like
it's caused so much stress in my own life and in plenty of people I know where I'm just like, how much do we have to do? Like, how much do we have to be always hyper aware and thinking about things super intently of like, is this exactly what I have to do? Or just follow scripture and you'll make the right choices. Is God's will this exact like timeline, sequence of events with dates that you need to follow or you screwed up?
Or you explode.
Or is it follow the word and you're in line with the will? It's...
Well, and even like just like what does he say? He says it at the end where he's like, well, even if we did make a mistake, like God can redeem it. And then Tom's like, but bad stuff can happen if we don't do it. And I'm like, but you just completely undermined the fact that God's bigger than all of it.
Right? He's like, but we do pay for our mistakes. And it's like, one, that's not what Whit was saying. Two, you're the one who doesn't think you made a mistake. Yeah. Whit thinks you made a mistake.
Yeah.
Why are you being negative on this now?
Yeah. Ugh. No wonder I stress so much about money. It's because of crap like this. Like, yeah.
Oh,
and like, honestly, we've talked a lot of crap about it, but seriously, I absolutely loved listening to it again.
Yeah, I did too.
Nostalgic purposes aside, like, it's a compelling narrative.
Yep.
Despite everything that's frustrating.
It is, even though I don't know that it's doing it in the most elegant way, it's setting up so much. Like, there's hinty things where it's like they killed the story and he's like, who did? The paper, they were bought out by some conglomerate and like that's gonna come into play and like matter. So they're doing a good job setting the stage. It's just like a lot of times
and maybe in hindsight like they were trying to do so much with this first episode that like that made the dialogue a little bit lesser.
Yeah, that's something I noticed in this one, and I think this might kind of ties into that, but it might play out through a lot of the Novacom stuff. But like, Adventures in Odyssey basically has like two lanes, which is like, this story is meant to be a direct representation of scripture, or this story has a hyper-driven plot.
Yeah.
And like Chris's wrap-up at the end is basically just like, I don't know, do what you think is best and hope that it goes well is like kind of her moral. And it's like, all right. And then like her scripture reference is Psalm 37, wait patiently for him to act.
That's like 6 words. What's the context? Would you mind?
Yeah, it's like, one, you're just the chapter Psalm 37, you're just picking 6 words out of that. And also like, it doesn't super tie into...
Oh, it is actually 6 words.
Yeah,
that was
6
just
words. Oh, no,
spitballing there. You checked me.
Yeah, I fact-checked you.
Thanks, buddy.
It's so, like, tangential to the episode where they were just like, we need to squeeze in more on a scripture here for this episode that is setting up everything else. And, like, I get that that's your brand and you got to do it. But, like, there is this conflict between the show of, like, sometimes it wants to do, like, super, like, plot-driven spy stuff. And other times it's like, we're going to take the imagination station to a Bible story.
Yeah.
And
like
the variety is some of what makes it work.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we jump around from episode to episode with completely different characters.
well, and the idea that you can have, so it's episode narratives that go across albums, and each album isn't all one narrative. Like,
right. Whatever the final album of Novacom is, I think every track on that album
Yeah,
is
that's,
Novacom. Is it Battle Lines?
Yeah, it's Battle Lines.
Yeah. But yeah, so
I'm honestly really excited to finish like re-listening to it.
Yeah.
When you shared it with me a little bit ago, I went back and listened to just some episodes that I hadn't heard in a while, and I actually really, really liked it. So
yeah, I'm really excited to continue going through this, and I think it'll be nice being able to talk about stuff once more of the chips were in line, because this episode does function not that dissimilarly from a pilot, where it's just trying to get stuff established for down the road.
it's trying so hard to establish so many different like ideas.
Right, and so a lot of the stuff I think we're particularly hard on in this episode might not be an issue, because
I don't feel like it will be.
I'm hopeful that I can come away from future episodes with a lot more like positive observations, because the problem is my nostalgia is so positive that anything slightly off, I just feel like I gotta slam. Plus, it's easier to be negative than positive and kind of more fun. But we're gonna try, or at least I will try to keep this positive. I'm not gonna force anything.
That's all. I mean, it's kind of satirical from me, like my old self, like hearing this from however old I was when I first heard it, but till like probably the age of 13, blindly like just subscribed to whatever they said on it, because Adventures in Odyssey is just good, right? It's like it's Christian media, and whatever that means, it means, and whatever it says about God is right. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It was looked at from my perspective, and I'm sure this wasn't like my parents' intention, not even that my parents introduced me to it, but just like I don't think I was ever told like blindly follow this thing, but like I so did. And there are legit passages of scripture that I have to this day memorized just because they were said in an episode that I listened to a bunch.
Yep.
Like that sort of thing sticks with you. There's a lot of stuff I could just like flat out quote whole episodes of Adventures in Odyssey, which is fun for no one. Come back for our sequel podcast where we just two-man show Adventures in Odyssey with none of the vocal talent.
It'll real be excited.
So good. But
Mr. Riley's gonna sound a lot like Connie Kendall. It's gonna be very confusing, but it'll be worth it.
Mr. Riley's also gonna
There is just such a large amount of nostalgia for me wrapped up, like just even in words, like saying like Connellsville, like holy crap, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that name in years. Like it's just because I was so into it for so long, coming back and revisiting it is very interesting. Yeah, and I'm excited for the rest of this.
Well, yeah, because it was largely positive. Like I listened through this episode twice in preparation, and the first time was just kind of like really getting into the groove of the show and just like, man, I really want to listen to the next episode. Like, I really want to listen to this. And then going through more methodically and just being like, all right, I've got some issues. Yeah. But I think overall it's still a good product.
No, it's I think it's an excellent product.
No baby out with the bathwater here.
Yeah, No, definitely. Like I told you this earlier. Like I was listening to it while I was on the stationary bike and at the gym, and where else would there be one? And the episode ended, and I had finished my notes or whatever, and I wanted to start the next one, but I didn't have it downloaded, and I was like, well, crap. Like I guess I have to listen to something else. Like I put on a podcast, and I was like, well, I enjoy this, but this isn't Adventures in Odyssey,
It's not quite the same.
It does its own thing very, very well.
Oh yeah, it really does, and the whole audio drama thing is so unique to it.
Yeah, well, and it's undoubtedly like I've listened to other audio dramas, not a ton, but enough to be like, and even like podcasts could be something that like. Certain aspects fringe in the audio drama
Night Vale, like a lot of that stuff is. And actually, I think a lot of my enjoyment of podcasts is an Adventures in Odyssey product, because
Definitely.
I had, through like middle school and stuff, had a really long like segment where I mowed the grass and started out listening to Adventures in Odyssey to kill time during that, and transitioned to audiobooks and transitioned to podcasts.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Like, it never really left podcasts.
Well, yeah, and even as a kid, like, I always listened to Adventures in Odyssey, and then when I, started needing to read books for school and stuff, like, I always found, like, I enjoy audiobooks more. Sure. And then I enjoyed podcasts more. Like, I got into podcasts, like, a long time before it really hit the mainstream, just because sitting down and listening to people talk was normal for me. And I think it's almost entirely because of Adventures in Odyssey.
Oh yeah, it's an important show of both our pasts, and
yes,
that's why we're doing this show. So so that's our first episode.
Wait, can you please explain Wad Fam Chalk Pod? Or do we want to wait till we get to the episode?
There is an episode in the Novacom Saga that will address this. So for those of you who don't get it, stay tuned. This is just going to be hilariously painful for you, and it's fine. Just tell your friends to go listen to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. You don't have to know what that means. But yeah, it's been real.
Wad Fam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Cooperative. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at WadFamChalkPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Episode 1, Opportunity Knocks, was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Sabo, and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haversick, hoping you'll join us next time for more of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.